monitored the launch of V-2 rockets from Germany. Although there was no defense against the German V-2 rockets, RAF Bodsey was able to provide the British Bomber Command with the location of the German V-2 launch sites, and then they could be attacked. East of Butley at Orford Ness, which is the far right pink circle, that's where that famous lighthouse is, was an experimental Madre over-the-horizon radar station that was constructed in 1961 to monitor Soviet launches. After the end of World War II, RAF Butley was renamed RAF Bentwaters by Britain's Ministry of Defense and leased to the United States Air Force for its 81st Fighter Interceptor Wing and the 67th Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Squadron. By 1958, RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge became a joint U.S. Air Force and Royal Air Force complex. They were together with the big, thick Rendlesham forest in between. In 1992, after the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Cold War thawed, the United States canceled its involvement with RAF Bentwaters. That is now a privately owned business park, while RAF Woodbridge is used by the UK Ministry of Defense for Army training exercises. In this presentation, I'm going to focus on the highly strange events that took place over 3 nights and days from midnight of December 26, 1980, to sunup December 28, 1980. And this Google aerial shows the Woodbridge weapons storage area in the lower left near the Woodbridge runway, bordered by dark green Rendlesham forest. And at the far eastern end of the Woodbridge flight line is the famous East Gate. Beyond the gate is a British civilian's farmhouse called the Foley House. And the orange path marks the roads that Staff Sergeant James Peniston said that he traveled in a security pickup with Airman First Class John Burroughs and Airman Ed Kavansak to investigate strange, unidentified aerial lights on what would have been the time frame of after midnight on December 26th. In your mind, just make a little clock. It helps to follow this story, because in the civilian world, we are used to thinking of only one night in each day. It's when we get home from work and the sun goes down. But in military operations that are going 24/7, 365, there are 2 nights. 1 and midnight shifts. So December 25th at Christmas is when Sea Flight, in which John Burroughs and Ed Kavansak and Jim Peniston came on at 11 p.m. on Christmas night. The clock switches at midnight, and now we're into December 26th and the first of the most dramatic events that unfold. That orange dot on the map, right here, that is the area that Sergeant Peniston says that he and Airman Burroughs approached bright lights and a black, glassy surfaced, triangular-shaped craft. Between the Foley House and the farmhouse is the section of Rendlesham Forest where the mysterious lights, beams, and at least one craft phenomenon is described by many people and occurred between December 26th to 28th, 1980, and a piece of this story that many of you may never have heard about before, what happened 2 weeks later on January 9th, 1981, back in the same Eastgate section of Rendlesham Forest. About 4 miles north was the RAF Bentwaters weapons storage area that did have nuclear weapons. That was a top secret at the time. There are men today who will still not say, yes, I know that there were nuclear weapons stored there, but there are others who admit it, and it is now accepted that RAF Bentwaters, under some agreement that we do not know the paper trail on that to this day, where were the agreements made between the United Kingdom and the United States that allowed the United States to have nuclear weapons stored on the RAF Bentwaters side of this huge joint base that played such a major role in NATO at the time in in 1980. Now those nuke bunkers were in an area that they called Hot Row, and they were watched 24 hours a day by security from the Bentwaters WSA watchtower. This photograph from the now historic RAF Bentwaters Tower looking out over the nuclear weapons storage area was taken in 2007 by UK police officer Gary Heseltine, who will be talking later. This Google aerial shows the RAF Woodbridge East Gate is about 6 miles west of the Orford Ness Lighthouse. And keep that in mind for any of the history or newspapers that you've ever heard or TV programs that dismissed what happened at RAF Bentwaters as nothing but a lighthouse. Now, what I have come to better understand is how many highly strange aerial light phenomena were being seen by various people in different parts of this large airbase, but sightings were often not reported. If reports were made, they were often known only to the people involved. As RAF Bentwaters Airman First Class Doc Rhodes told me, quote, "When I got to Bentwaters, fresh from basic in January of 1980, I was told by some of the more experienced guys, if you see a light or something strange floating in the skies, don't report it. You'll only make trouble for yourself," close quote. And in fact, Doc Rhodes recently sketched for me what he remembered seeing at the beginning of 1980. This is almost an entire year before the events that we're going to go more deeply into. And he was stationed as a young airman at the Woodbridge main gate one night, and he said this very large aerial light, completely silent, stopped in the air without right outside of where he was at the Woodbridge main gate, and it shot for a half hour a series of beams that came out of the big light, and the direction that they were going was the Woodbridge weapons storage area and that flight line. But Doc Rhodes said that he never reported that incredible aerial light and those beams because of the warning, "Don't stir up trouble." But this means that at RAF Bentwaters, from the beginning of 1980, that this is the kind of phenomena that was being seen, at least by Doc Rhodes, and reported in terms of rumors by others. And then we're going to go to the end of the year for what unfolded Christmas week. This Airman First Class Doc Rhodes, he was in what is called Delta or D flight at RAF Bentwaters. There were Alpha and Baker, Charlie, and Delta flights for law enforcement and security. Security would patrol base perimeters and flight line operations, while law enforcement would check buildings, deal with domestic disputes, and check people in and out of gates. Back in late December 1980, nearly a year after Airman Rhodes watched that big light emit that series of beams, military, security, and law enforcement from C and D flights are the ones that were involved in at least 3 consecutive nights of mysterious, unidentified lights, beams, and craft, beginning with C flight on the change from Christmas night to the early morning hours after midnight on the 26th. And one of those airmen from C flight law enforcement was John Burroughs, said by some witnesses to have either jumped up onto a craft in the forest or rose up in a beam of light. I heard that rumor back in the early 80s that a man named John Burroughs may have been taken by whatever came into Rendlesham Forest. John's conscious memory has been blocked for 30 years about all of the details of what happened to him on 2 different nights, after midnight the 26th and after midnight the 28th, 1980. But 8 years after 1980, something occurred which gives us today like a historical insight into John Burroughs' blocked mind. And it was brought about by a Hollywood TV producer who was responsible for a 1988 program that some of you might have seen. It was called UFOs Cover Up Live. The producer was named Kurt Brubaker. Now, oddly, there was none of John in UFO Cover Up Live, even though Brubaker touched a little bit on R.A.F. Bentwaters as well as many other subjects. But after the broadcast, Kurt Brubaker organized, with the help of some other people, a hypnosis session, and John went to Kurt Brubaker's home on November 11th, 1988, and met with a hypnotherapist named Al Ward. There was Kurt Brubaker's wife was there. John Burroughs was married at the time, and his wife was there. So there were the 3 men and the 2 women, and those were the 5 in the room when, for the very first time, somebody attempted to penetrate John's blocked memory. And what I'm going to show you, because I think it is important for you to get a feeling of what came out of this blocked mind under this first hypnosis session with John, 8 years after all of the phenomena in the forest, and then we will go further into the details in the military voices. And I want to explain that this was originally on magnetic tape. And over time, for those of you who have been experiencers with magnetic tape, you know it deteriorates. So you will see the classic deterioration of rainbows, but it does not take away at all from being able to hear a remarkable, as if John was provoked some way. He could not remember this consciously. But now I'm going to play for you what happened in his mind that day that has never been in public. You are seeing this as an audience with the Eureka Springs audience in April for the very first time.
We started getting nervous. We were like going, what are we getting into? I don't know. What's going on? We don't know. The radio keeps coming back. They can't reach us for a while. We can't reach them. We're getting real nervous. We're getting scared. We can't get on the radio. We can't go much farther if they don't hear us on the radio no more because we don't like what's going on. Sergeant Pennison, what do you think? I don't know. Stop right now. Stop right now. Let's try to reach him on the radio. Okay. We've got him. Yeah, it's still there. It seems to be in the clearing. It seems to be in that clearing up ahead. Can we go on farther? Yes, go on farther. Find out what's going on. Let's go, guys. Look at that. There it is. Hit the ground. I run. I died. Shoot, John, shoot. I can't. I don't have my gun.
Who's telling you to shoot?
Sergeant Pennison. I don't have my gun. They told me not to bring it. Yes, they did. They told you at the last minute to bring it.
Describe what it is he wants you to shoot at.
Lights. A weird oval-shaped light. It's hovering. It's strobing.
Flashing back and forth, flashing on and off.
It's white, but there's lights below it. There's little lights below it. There's the orange lights. There's the red lights. It's like sun. It's like the sun, but it's not shaped like the sun. It's like an oval-shaped thing, and it's pulsating.
How far away is it?
10 feet, maybe 15.
How big is it?
I don't know. It keeps changing.
Changing its
size. The lights are pulsating. It's hard to judge. It's there. Now it's moving back.
Away from you?
It's moving away. It's up in the air. It's moving back. It's up through the trees. It's moving back. Now it's in the distance, but it's there. It's down low again. How did it get through the trees? I don't know. Well, we'll follow it. Call him. Tell him we're going to follow it. We got to follow it. I can't reach him on the radio. The hell with the radio. Put it down. We don't need it. Put it in your hose. Put it in your pocket. Let's go. We don't care what they say. We've got to find out. Something's there. We've got to find out. Let's go.